Hi, everybody. It's episode 126 with Sarah Moore. We're going corn hole deep this time. All of your holes will be filled with corn. That was really weird. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it like that. Sorry. Let's do some ads. VetDNA.com for all of your testing needs. Use code SHITHAPPENS for $5 off the crypto panel at VetDNA.com. We all know you have shit. You might as well test it. VetDNA.com. I forgot that one on Thursday's live. I'm a bad person. I'm so sorry. That's why the rules were made up. And then all of our other fun sponsors, Stoneage Ball Pythons, Powerhouse Ball Pythons, BNS Reptilia, Small Town Xotics, Bravo Zulu Ball Pythons, and Gray Family Snakes. The only one who actually keeps corn snakes is BNS Reptilia. So not good marketing for them, but sorry. We're talking about corn snakes today. All right, Sarah, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm here. I'm alive.
Yeah, same. We're alive.
Yeah, the sun's out. And
no
here
no, we don't have that here. I'm in Indiana. We don't have sun.
Indiana, eh? Does Indiana have rules about MRI crosses or anything like Illinois loves doing?
No, but you can't have native species just in general. So like I can't have most garter snakes. I can't have like rough or smooth green snakes. Can't have racers. Like there's a lot of like native snakes here, like a lot of milk snakes that I really like can't have. So at least it's not like I can have MRI, no problem. Just not anything that Indiana has deemed to be native.
All right, but otherwise it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. The big overarching topic is the corn snake market in 2024. I did watch your pairing videos. You have a lot of pairings.
Awesome.
Yeah. Are you worried about the number of babies produced relative to your ability to move it? Or if you're not, why?
No. I've never had a problem moving. I've never had a problem with like not selling snakes. I am producing more this year than last year and then more than like the year before and all that. So like the production is going up, but also the number of people in general who are producing has gone down, not drastically necessarily in like the number of people, but a lot of the big breeders are not in the hobby right now anymore. So a lot of people have retired. You know, obviously Kathy Love's retired. I believe Walter Smith is retired. There's just a lot of like kind of bigger names in the hobby. Steve Roylance has retired. And so it has kind of left this hole. And I had the best selling year ever that I've ever had last year. I've been doing this. This will be my 14th year. And so I don't foresee it being an issue to move them. I'm vending at shows that are local now as well. And that tends to do well. It's just like, I think because of the void in the big breeders, a lot of the smaller breeders are probably going to be a little bit like, they're going to be doing a bit better. But also, I think for me specifically, I see Chris. Hi, Chris. I see you in the chat. I also saw Donnell up there. Hey, guys. For me specifically, I think that my like sort of YouTube platform and all of that has really helped promote this. And so I just don't have the worry. And even if I don't move everything, I kind of always told myself that I wouldn't produce something that I wouldn't keep ultimately. You know what I mean? Like if it became illegal for me to sell snakes tomorrow, would I keep everything I have until it's, you know, a death of old age? And the answer is yes. And so I think it's kind of just a matter of like, I already know what I'm in for, but it may be different
for
me.
Like people. The holding cost of corn snakes is not that hard because they're small for a long time. You're like, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I am struggling to sell corn snakes. I'm just be honest. So
yeah, a lot of people are. I mean, a lot of people said they didn't want to do any breedings last year. And a lot of people didn't. A lot of people told me that I shouldn't be doing as many breedings last year. But I had my best year ever last year. And so, you know, you never know what the year is going to do. But corn snakes, of course, aren't selling for as much as they were. And I think that that's what everybody was really, really afraid of, was that, oh, I'm going to do all of this, but I'm going to have to sell my normals for $50 instead of $100. But like, I remember when a normal was like, you couldn't give them away. You know what I mean? I remember when you could get them for $15 a piece. And so, and
Right, I
obviously that
remember
was
that
10
too.
years ago,
Yeah.
but you know,
I mean, we could be going back there though, I guess is.
could be.
Do
We could
you
be.
think we're going back there?
I don't
Like there
think we're
are
going to go
major,
all the way.
right? There are major
Yeah,
players
go ahead.
that left, but a lot of them left even before the COVID boom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Kathy Love was
Yeah.
already retired. Steve
Mhm.
Roylance did leave last year after his flood,
Mhm.
but you know, other players bought all their stuff and are still breeding it. They're just wholesaling it or whatever because Travis
I
got
guess.
all of Steve's stuff. Not that you can buy
Yeah.
any of it. I don't know where they all
No.
went.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
and Walter
I mean,
Smith was already out before the COVID boom.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, I just personally don't personally worry about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody should be a breeder either. Like that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody should be like, oh, Sarah's not worried about selling her snakes, so I'm gonna go breed everything I have and it's gonna be fine. I think everybody kind of needs to just gauge it for themselves. You know, I know that's not a straight answer. I don't know. I think there's always going to be a demand for pet snakes. And especially for me, I get a lot more demand from women than most people I know. I think a lot of women feel more comfortable with another woman, kind of helping them out with learning this stuff. Because, I mean, let's be honest, like this is a very male dominated hobby. And a lot of the males that do dominate the hobby are not very nice to women who want to come in to the hobby. And so a lot of women, especially women who are, you know, buying snakes for their kids as pets, they would rather come to a woman. It's just a safer space for them. And so that is a leg up for me, at least I feel. I'm very unfortunately me-centered when it comes to some of these answers because I just can't tell you what other people's experiences are going to be.
Right. Like there are many species that people are sitting on inventory from 2022 and 2023 and they're like, "Oh, I just, I have a bunch of carpet pythons. I just don't pair again cuz I'll just sell the carpet pythons I still have," right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a
So,
reasonable way to go about it is if you already have stock that it's difficult to move, don't create more stock.
right.
And
Like difficult to move for that person specifically cuz some people are better at selling snakes. Let's just be honest. Like people are just better at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I think a lot of people have trouble knowing who to go to. You know what I mean? And so they look for videos on YouTube, which is kind of like how I became as like big as I am. Or they look for, you know, someone like Brian Barczyk, who is no longer with us, who, you know, you can see into their lives a little bit, and you can kind of build some trust with them, even if you don't know them. Whereas if you just go to random corn snake breeder online, like how do you know who to trust? And I think that that's one of the biggest things is like you kind of have to prove yourself as being a trustworthy breeder to be trusted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like chicken and egg stuff. Like
I know.
to become
Yeah.
a trustworthy breeder, you had to have successfully sold enough to have stayed in the hobby long enough to become
Yeah.
it. So you had to sell some somewhere. Do you think a new corn snake person should, use judicious wholesaling or something and just sell some? Because some people are just not pairing stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine, right?
Yeah, I
But
think that's perfectly fine to just not breed. I think that if you're just getting started, start small, you know, start with one pair, one clutch of eggs. And I would say the most important thing is like learn how to be a good customer service representative. I know that sounds kind of weird, but people want someone that they know they can like talk to and ask questions to. I've seen a lot of people, I see posts on Facebook all the time of like, oh, well, if you want to have a 4-hour conversation with me about this animal, I don't have time for you. I don't have time for that. Like decide what you want and then come back to me. I think that attitude is ultimately harmful. And so if you're trying to like make a good name for yourself, start small and be good to your customers. Like I know that's, and it's you kind of got to build some personal relationships with people. in order to kind of get known in that way. And transparency, you know, and I don't know. There's so much that goes into it. And I'm not an expert on that. I just worked hard to be where I am, and then here I am, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, like, to me, corn snakes are, as a species, still an underdog species, like since the ball python times, since 2002, basically. But like they've always been relegated to like, it's a weird side quest. Like, have fun doing that, weirdos. Is there ever a time or thing that you could do to make corn snakes prestigious again? Like most people, the amount of derision is at an all-time high. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really remember the time when corn snakes were prestigious. I got in about 2011, so that was like right in the middle of like ball python high craze. And so corn snakes have always been on the bottom rung according to the community at large.
Right. Well, you remember, like, have you ever looked in the Wayback Machine at Rich Sikowski's website? So I was in before then, right?
Nice. Okay.
Like 2000, whatever. So I bought corn snakes from Rich Sikowski on his website. And so the prices were moderate or whatever. But, you know, they'd be like 200, 300. When he launched Ashy, you know, and so there was like a morph curve and breeding interest, and people would have that and have whatever pyro king snakes. And so, but a lot of times people are just like, this is some corn snake somebody left on my doorstep. I guess I'll breed them and sell them for $30 at a show. There's a very like lax motive unless they're making palmettos or scaleless. Like everything else though barely matters to the normal vendor at a show.
Yeah. And it also kind of depends on like, are you breeding for other breeders or are you breeding for like customers? Like that's kind of most random like people off the street aren't going to be buying a micro scale for $2,000 or whatever. Like most people aren't going to be doing that. If they're going to a show, they do want that $30, $50, maybe top $100 snake as a pet. So like I've kind of gone back and forth. I don't want to say back and forth. I have a balance of snakes that are usually purchased by other breeders and then snakes that are usually purchased by just the average keeper. And like I never exactly know which ones are going to be more popular. Some years I don't hardly have any customers outside of other breeders. And then some years I don't hardly interact with any other breeders as far as buying or selling, and it's almost exclusively just keepers who want pets. I'm trying to remember what point I had when I started that sentence, but it's gone. Okay. So sorry.
All right. So subservient, which is an interesting spelling, but Joe Pierce comes to mind. Is there anybody else you know that does pure locality corns that aren't Miamis?
Localities that are not Miamis? I mean, there's always
what's Spitfire
SMR
Exotics
SMR
thing?
Does have like Okeetees. Ryan Beatty used to have some really nice Okeetees. Let's see. I don't see nobody breeds keys, so that's one that I
Spitfire does. Do you know them? Yasser Mustafa. He's from Washington. He has like
I don't think I know him.
Locality Emery too, like the Montaigne forms.
Okay.
But he also has boot key, specifically corn snakes. So they exist. They're just like, you know, a guy doing his thing.
Just a guy doing his thing. And I love keys corn snakes. Like I have one that again was just sort of dropped on my doorstep.
Like I said, I'm telling you.
Yeah. I mean, it was less of a doorstep and more of a meet me at the park so I can give you the snake. But similar thing. It was like, I guess I just have this snake now. And she's amazing and she's beautiful. And I'm still I'll probably use her for like outcrossing. But yeah, once again, you're gonna have to help me because my short-term memory is like
we're doing great. New question. It's been somewhat contentious, but I know where I fall on it. I'm going to ask you, Cold, where you fall on it. Do you think Cinders, being homozygous Cinder, has a phenotype difference that is outside of its relationship to being Key's locality, or do you think it's because of the mutation? I won't spoil my
The
thoughts if you don't know.
mutation, I think that the mutation is part of it. I think the mutation is a lot of it. I think that Keys is also a lot of it. Especially when I see people who have like Cinder masks available. I'm like, to me, that's not a mask. That's just because of the Keys background. However, I do think, I mean, to me, it's not a recessive mutation. It's an incomplete dominant mutation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, when you breed a Cinder to a normal and you see that all these babies just like kind of look like Cinders or Cinder-ish, that can kind of trick people trick people into thinking, oh, it's just the Keys background that's causing that. Sorry, I'm gonna
Okay, let me clarify. It wasn't clear.
Okay,
like,
maybe
they actually have like a
sorry.
phenotype change to the morphology of the snake. Small heads, big eyes, skinny.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just go ahead and say it. Like ECW was like, it's only because they're Keys lineage. And I have siblings that are outcrossed to Okiti, so they're from big, heavy stock. So they look big and heavy. But siblings, if they're homozygous Cinder, are skinnier than heterozygous Cinder. To me, it's partially being homozygous Cinder makes you skinny.
It
What
could
do you think about that?
It definitely could be. I don't have Cinder. Oh, sorry, girl. I don't have Cinder in my collection, and I have only worked with it off and on somewhat briefly. Mm-hmm. But the shorter snouts is definitely a Cinder thing. The sort of, because usually it's the bigger eyes are kind of because of the shorter snouts, I've noticed. Like, it's almost like there's not as much space in the head for the eyes, and so they kind of look a little more bulgy. And they just do seem to be smaller. They grow slower. And there's other morphs that also cause that same phenomenon. Odd is one of them. If you have a visual odd or a het odd, they grow slower. They are smaller. That just is. And I think it's very likely that it is just part of the Cinder mutation. Mm-hmm. It's very likely.
Like in some ways it's fine, right?
And like I've had Keys that were
they still breed
too. Yeah.
Right. They're fine. They're fine animals, but they're skinny looking. Like some of them look like scrappy, and you're like, "Do you have crypto?" And I'll test them 10 times or whatever, and they don't. They're just scrappy.
They're just And
then I've raised up enough siblings. I'm like, for fuck's sake.
It just, and you probably have more experience with Cinder than I do, because I just have not. I've seen, of course, the photos and everything, and they all do seem to just be overall thinner. Like, even if you look at the really big, sort of healthier, bulkier looking ones, they're still smaller than I would expect.
And even they get fat.
Size snake.
Like, they can get hips and a little bit of like dough. They're still skinnier, like inside. Their potatoes is skinnier.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely, it could definitely be a part of that mutation. I think it definitely is possible, especially now that I've been working with the odd mutation off and on. That I used to think, oh, there's no way that these like color mutations are really going to affect the size of the snake, right? But now that I've been working with this odd for long enough, it hasn't been that long, but it's been long enough to notice that like visual odds and het odds both just stay so small. It takes forever for them to grow. And so I think that it's definitely possible that Cinder would cause that. I don't have enough experience.
The Lost project. Where do you get your hets from? Or individual?
That's a good question. I'm so bad at remembering people's names. I'm so bad at remembering people's names.
Okay.
I'm so
like,
sorry.
Did you get it straight from the university project or something?
No. I got them from someone who like had gotten them from the university project. So the big female that I have, this girl's all over the place right now. The big female A-male odd that I have, I believe, came from that project. And then I don't know exactly where the heads came from. Ultimately, they may all have come from that project, like in the beginning, but I got them. I want to say it was Mariah Righty, but I'm not 100% sure if that's who it was. I'm not 100% sure because I don't remember. I don't
Here,
remember
let me
names.
share screen because people might not even know what it is. Do you want to explain
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is in case they don't know? It's just a picture. Like,
Yeah, so that I think is an anery or a charcoal version.
yeah, it's just
I
the
think
first one
that's a
that came
charcoal one.
Anery on Morph Market from Crystal
Okay.
Colubrids. It was
Yeah, I think
Skull.
that might have been who it was. Crystal Colubrids. I just can't remember.
So it makes like twin spotted, almost like a Prairie King or, a hognose or
It
something.
reminds me of like Stillman, like the old Stillman corns. I did see someone in the chat ask me if I have halo clutches this year. Yes, I always have halo clutches. I have one pair together right now. That's a Halo Snow to an Ultramillenary, who's also from a Halo line. So, and then I have like 3 or 4 other females that will all be paired with Halo. So yeah, we'll have plenty of that. Plenty of that.
So do you think we can increase vigorousness with into odd, or are you still just playing around with it right now?
I think that it can be increased for sure, especially when my male gets big enough. My male het odd, when he actually gets like big enough to breed, which he's just barely on the cusp right now, so he might actually breed this year. Then I want to be working with it more. Like I want to increase the number of females that I'm breeding him to, and I'm hoping that we might actually get some visuals with him and the big female. I know it's a little controversial to breed female odds because usually they're smaller, but like my female odd is bigger than this girl, and like she's fully sizable, like ready to breed. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not worried about her not being able to handle egg laying. That was always kind of the biggest issue with the female odds, was that they just never really got big enough to handle egg laying. And so since my girl is big enough, I'm really hoping that we can get a clutch of a mix of like visuals and hets and actually like proliferate this project a little more, because there's just so few of them. There's so few of them. And a lot of people, even people who have females, are so afraid to try to breed them, you know? So, I mean, it's new to me, but I'm gonna keep working with it, keep trying to get it going. I'm also working with Weirdo and Golden, which are 2 other ones that have been impossible to like really get off the ground. And so hoping, of course, that all of those start doing like actually producing.
Do you think Weirdo is
a mutation?
I don't know what to say. Yeah, like monogenic or polygenic, I guess is step 1.
You know,
I know Sean couldn't figure it out, but he gave up, right? But
yeah,
it's
so
fine.
I don't know. I think that it is an incomplete dominant mutation. That is my hypothesis as of now. Because when you breed like visual weirdos, the babies look kind of funky. They do. And then you breed those funky babies back together and you get these like obviously very weird looking snakes. But you can also get very not weird looking snakes out of those parents.
Yeah, I see a lot like, and it's fine they label them this way, like weirdo line.
Right.
Whatever. And that's fine. That's like the correct way to label it because you don't know what the hell's going on. But like a new person's just gonna buy it as a pet, and that's cool. But like what are we doing with it, collectively as a hobby to sort it out? Maybe that's the biggest problem. Is it just sort of got sent to the wind.
Someone sent me a actually Ryan Farrell of Feral Captives sent me a male weirdo. It was the last one that he had available this season, and he's like, you know what? Merry Christmas, figure this out. And he just sent me the snake. And so he's still too small to breed. Obviously, he's not going to breed till next year, but I'm hoping to figure it out. I'm going to breed him to a wild caught female probably, or at least like a normal female, and just like see what we get. Because VMS had them for a long time. Because Catherine Turley was the first one to produce them on accident from VMS line snakes, a mixture of VMS and SMR line snakes. And I actually have like the whole family tree of the weirdos all like platted out from research that I've done. And I actually ended up with a male from VMS who is a sibling to the parents that produced the original weirdos. And when I bred him, he made some, and he was really weird looking. And his babies are all super weird looking as well. And so I'm thinking that he may have been like an anery weirdo or something like that, or het weirdo or something. I don't know. And so I have this clutch of like super strange looking babies. So I'm gonna like try to breed my known weirdo into that clutch and see. I don't know. As far as like, I don't think that weirdo adds that much to the hobby. I feel like weirdo is kind of like yellow jacket, where it's like, oh cool, it's slightly different from a normal. But
people don't believe in yellow jackets still, though. Not everyone. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know why that is, because
and they also don't believe in red factor. Also,
that's even weirder to me.
Yeah, I know, but
because like, I mean, since I feel like people who don't believe in it haven't worked with it. That's the thing. Like, I have yellow jackets that came from Joe Pierce. It was from the golden, like het golden to a yellow jacket caramel motley. Like like my original golden possible het goldens were from that test breeding, which is why like I have so many questions as to whether or not am I producing caramels, am I producing goldens? I don't know, but oh god, what was I gonna say? This is a problem. I get on the tangent, a rant, and then I forget what the point was of my rant. All
right,
yellow jacket.
Sorry, let me interrupt. Wait, Heather,
it's fine.
We have been looking for you. Message Erie on Instagram.
What?
Sorry, this is just to Heather. She wanted a snake. Message Erie Reptiles on Instagram, please. Thank you for coming back. We thought you were like bid and then ran away. Please message Erie on Instagram. I think Erie's even in the chat. Talk to each other in chat. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
It's okay. So with yellow jacket, it's not het caramel. I know this. I have like there's been some debate on whether like yellow jacket is het caramel or not, and I think that's why. I think that's why people don't believe in it. But like, listen, I've had yellow jackets that did not carry caramel, and I've had caramels that were definitely not yellow jacket. A lot of people think that you can see het caramel, and that's what yellow jacket is. But I can tell you from experience, I've had so many surprise het caramels that just had no additional yellow on them ever at all. And of course, a lot of people, the best looking caramels are yellow jackets. And so when most people are holding back really, really nice looking caramels, they probably have that additional yellow jacket because it does make them look a lot brighter, a lot nicer. So people like it. They just don't know they like it because they don't think it exists. They think that it's het caramel or just something related to caramel, which technically caramel, buff, yellow jacket, and toffee all came out of the Rich Z caramel line. Like when he got that wild caught caramel, that took like that spawned all of these mutations. And so since 3 of those 4 are dominant yellow enhancing mutations, people think it's the same. Thanks for the $5.
Peace out.
That's not for me, but thank you.
Yeah, we get here, I'll give like a little bit of tips
here.
Just there you go. Thank you for your
service. The channel support. We're doing reverse harems today, by the way. We decided.
Yeah, line up, boys.
For any other men who want to line up in the chat.
Sorry, what were we talking about?
Yellow. We were talking about yellow jacket. So I have 2 yellow jackets. I've been breeding them together because they're possible het golden. I've been breeding them to other snakes because they're possible het golden. I've been testing them with caramel because I know that some of them are het caramel, or possibly het caramel at least. And yellow jacket is definitely different. Like, I'm getting to the point now where when I hatch babies, I know for sure which ones are yellow jackets and which ones are not. It pretty much, like, sometimes there's like iffy ones, but for the most part, I can be like, yeah, that's definitely gonna turn into something a little bit more yellow and not red.
Have you tried to isolate it from caramel?
I mean, I'm working on that now, but like, I've had yellow jackets that weren't het caramel, so like, unless I am breeding them and I'm just not, like, I just happen to not hit the odds, which is possible. It's in progress. Everything's just in progress, especially when it comes to golden. Like, my goal with the whole thing, my goal is not yellow jacket right now. My goal is golden right now. And the yellow jacket can be proven out later. That's fine. I will eventually breed it with buff and test it with buff, because I do have buff in my collection. I don't think they're the same thing, because yellow jacket anery and buff anery look very, very different from each other. So I don't know. You know, everything's just kind of in progress. There's unfortunately no like straight answers for a lot of this stuff.
Are you excited about the Black Diamond?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for what it's
the concept,
not the name. Yeah, I know. I was like, technically, yes, I am excited about it. I'm excited for what this is going to do for the hobby. I think that this hypermelanism is going to do a lot more for the hobby than, you know, any other random hypo type that's been popping up. Like, it seems like every other year we have a brand new hypo that shows up somewhere. But I really think that Black Diamond is going to change. I don't want to say it's going to change a lot in the hobby, but it's going to do a lot, I think, I think
it'll change a lot, because I think that like people who don't really like corn snakes but just want to make a bunch of money will flood in.
Yeah,
because they're like, oh, black snake combo, which it's fine, but they're just gonna overproduce it and then leave again. Because I've had people walk by my table at a reptile show and be like, I made so much money on tesseras, and I'm like, and now I don't have any corn snakes. I'm like, literally, fuck off. What does that even mean?
What is that even? It's like, so it's like, okay, you are not someone who actually likes.
Right, they're just jumping from species to species for whatever new schmorph
you're just here for like money,
extracting value from. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah. All right,
thank you so much.
Here's a spicy question for you. On this show, like 9 months ago, Sean Bradley said that Don Soderbergh misremembered the origin of ultramels because truly frosted, like gray rat snake, corn snake hybrids were on the same table as the original ultramels at the same show. Tried to buy them. He wouldn't sell them. He went home, bought them later, but misattributed the origin of the phenotype at that moment. What do you think about that story?
Well, this is the first I'm hearing of that story.
Right, you should watch the podcast. We talk about
I know. I'm sorry. I actually I didn't know you had a podcast until you were like, "Hey, you want to be on my podcast?" I was like,
shit,
man, I need to be in. I need to be. Like I said, I'm unfortunately very like self-focused when it comes to reptile stuff, and I feel really bad about that. I really need to like branch out a little bit more. So the original producers of Ultramel have already kind of come out and said that there's a possibility of it being a hybrid. So I don't know about like frosted versus the Ultramels, but he was like in it, right? Like he was part of the big group that was testing it for like inheritance. So I'm surprised by that like he just wouldn't.
I wasn't there personally at that time, but like
same, obviously.
Yeah, and then supposedly Sean had his own version of it that was never even related, that he was just test crossing
Which
because he couldn't figure out Sean Bradley, so
Sean
Exotics by
Bradley, okay.
Nature,
Yeah.
who was test crossing it to albino, couldn't figure out why he was getting intermediate forms for a long time separately, and he was calling it like hypo, whatever, whatever, right?
Ultra hypo, or is that what it was? Yeah.
But it was like his internal line, and the separate line came out and was like misattributed at that moment because they were doing frosted stuff too. And he's saying his line was pure to begin with, and theirs was pure. They just like fucking forgot or like mistalked to each other. They just didn't care enough.
Yeah, it definitely could be. This is the first I'm hearing of that story, but like to me that would make more sense because like I have talked to so many breeders that were there back then, and they're like, this doesn't feel like a hybrid. It doesn't act like a hybrid mutation. It doesn't really even look like a hybrid mutation.
And you can't you breed a gray rat snake to a corn snake today. Like you cannot repeat.
Right. You can't remake Ultramel
right.
like that. It doesn't really work. Now I would understand if it was something like how Scaleless came about. It came about because of the hybrid breeding.
You think?
I
don't think it was just a spontaneous mutation?
Well, it was, but I think that it was spontaneous, and part of the reason that it happened was because it was a hybrid breeding originally.
Why do you think that?
That's my personal
I'm not trying
feeling.
to be mean, but why do you think that? Because like pure snakes spontaneously mutate and make
that's true
scaleless forms all the time, and they're real ugly, all of them. But
yeah, they are.
You seen a scaleless Burmese python? It is the saddest lump of meat I have ever seen.
I have not.
Sorry,
I'm not surprised. I feel like the bigger the snake that has no scales, the more sad it looks. Like the little snakes with no scales, it's like, oh, you're cute, and you almost feel like velvet. But then the bigger they get, it's like you kind of just look like a weird lump.
Sorry, I'm on team anti-scaleless. But go ahead.
I don't like the way they look, but I don't think there's any problem with them existing. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Sure. I think I'm just like everything I like, nobody else likes. So like I'm on team. Like I'm gonna promote the things that I like.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? So I have to like.
Yeah.
I have to go whole hog. Ew, this is so nasty. I'm scared. Look at this like body. It's just like meat. Crinkled dry meat, and not a man meat, not a nice meat, a bad.
Not even the kind of meat we want.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring the mood down. Let's go back.
Oh, totally.
Okay, so, I have like another point. Every fucking re-imported snake from Europe, corn snake, acts like a halfway Pantherophis hybrid to something. Big eggs, weird clutch size numbers. What do you think about that?
Sometimes you even see like keeled scales for no reason.
Correct. Like I don't think they give two shits, right? Like
I think
they're even more goofy about it.
I think it depends on the place in Europe. So I've talked to people from certain countries, and they're like, no, we're very, it's like a stickler here. Like we're sticklers for that. We do not cross anything, blah, blah, blah. Perfectly fine. But then there's definitely some times when, let's see, what was the name? There was one more, they called it Ultimate. And they were like, oh no, it's a corn snake. It's a corn snake. It's a corn snake. But then like when we looked at the like actual parents, it's like, that's not a corn snake. That's definitely not what that is. And so I think in some places, I think more in the Asia area, they just don't care. If it breeds together, we're breeding it together. And if someone said something was a corn snake, we're calling this a corn snake. And so I tend to avoid imports from most places like that, kind of for that reason. And I know a lot of people they're like, oh, this is so cool. It's so pretty. And I'm like, yeah, it's so different, but that's part of the reason for that is because people are just breeding whatever will breed over there.
Purple Church also brings up Newport. So like, you always have to take, like, listen to what Sean Bradley's saying with a grain of salt, because it's his recollection of the events also. But when I sent that episode to Dawn, he was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I always thought I was getting like the frosted mix pile, and it could have been frosted anyway." So I don't know who's misremembering, but I've never seen an ultramelt that looks like it wants to bite the neck of its mate or whatever. Speaking of Pickford, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, of all of the snake morphs, Tessera is the one that does it. Tessera is the one that they act like California king snakes. They just do. And I don't like California king snakes. I've tried to breed. I've tried to have them. I've tried to raise them from babies. I've tried to buy adults. I've tried more times than I would like to admit to like them. And I just
have you tried covering your whole body in alcohol or something so you don't taste delicious? Have you ever seen them like lube up at a show? They're like lubing up. They're like, please don't try to bite me. And then they go pick up their pet. Great pet.
I'm good. I got this is Phoenix, by the way, for anybody who wants to see her. She's a charcoal super mask. And she's just been chill. She might be gravid right now, but I don't know for sure yet.
Yeah, it's down here. It's a bummer because I can't like brumate early, so I have to brumate late. So mine are all still down in the hole.
Yeah, most of mine are also still down in the hole. I actually didn't brumate her at all this year. I just didn't. I don't know. Some of them I was like, I'm just gonna not brumate some of my females this year.
Yeah, corn snakes get pretty good at whatever enough information tickles their cycling fancy, and that's just enough. You don't necessarily have to brumate any of them ever.
Yeah, it's like they know what time of year it is. I tell people that all the time, especially, you know, someone will have a male adult corn snake and it'll be March and they're like, my snake isn't eating, and I'm like, it's because he knows that it's breeding season. He knows that it's springtime. That they don't eat during springtime sometimes. Like, you know, that's one thing that I'm like, do some research, which I guess that's not like normal research, but I feel like, I don't know, that's kind of common knowledge at this point. I think, but that's the thing. Like, if people ask the question, it's probably not common knowledge. So how do we make it common?
Yeah, knowledge? I don't think they know. I also don't need to know females could ovulate by themselves, hypothetically, at some point, and lay slugs, hypothetically, in the future, if they really felt like it.
Yeah, I've had that happen before, too. That's pretty... It's not uncommon. Yeah.
I just think they don't know. They buy a baby, they're like, I know how to take care of a baby, and they don't think about, like, the reproductive part.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people ask me, you know, which one is a better pet, males or females? And of course, like, they both can make amazing pets. Like, you've seen this girl just sitting here pretty much the whole time. She got a little wiggly for a minute, but females can be great, but they can also be really cranky. And I understand that, you know, like about 4 times a year, especially if you don't brumate them, they're probably going to be cranky for like a month. And that just is the way it is. And so you can decide if you want something that's cranky occasionally and might lay slug eggs and might even get egg bound on some of those slug eggs. Or you can get a male who's never going to have any of those problems. And the worst thing that's going to happen is he fasts for a month out of the year.
Which is good.
And so,
to me, better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as someone if you're looking for a pet, I still recommend males. Like, it's not that females are bad. I mean, like, again, she's such a sweetheart and she might even be gravid and she's not even like, she's not even bothered, really. So like, females can make amazing pets. It's just like, there's ups and downs. It's just like people, you know? I mean,
yeah,
some people are easier
all
to
the time. Doesn't matter what time of the month it is.
Same. All the time.
I know. Fuck. I try to keep it together. What percent of like females with follicles that aren't paired go on to lay slugs instead of reabsorb, do you think? Or that you have experience with kids or people?
Very few.
People.
Very, very few. Like, it's a very small percentage. I would say ovulating females that will lay slugs without like being paired at all, she is 2%, maybe not that many. Like, at least from my experience, it doesn't happen very often. It's a very small. It's just a very small percentage. Like, it's definitely not 10%.
Right. Like
and
you can
it's
feel
not
follicles
5%.
in like 2-year-old,
Oh yeah.
right? 18 months old. And if you
Yeah. Oh
leave them
yeah.
alone 99% of the time, they reabsorb,
Yeah.
you
Like
know.
it's some small amount. Like it's not even 5%. Like I said, 2% might be like high number. So,
Mhm.
and I mean, it's like it's different. 2% of females versus 2% of the time that it can happen. I would say 2% of the time that it can happen, it would happen, but then it's like it's fewer females than that. Because usually if you get a female that does that, she might do that every year or every few years.
Mhm.
But some females will just never do that. I think that females that will do it once are more likely to do it again. So percentage wise of like number of snakes, very, very small. But those that have done it once will probably do it again, if that makes sense. I don't.
Yeah, that question is for Alicia. She asked me the other night, and I'm like, when I don't pair them, they just most of them just reabsorb. Right? They
Yeah.
don't slug out and have egg binding problems.
Yeah.
What
Usually not.
is the
Usually not.
smallest female you ever had lay slugs without being paired? Mine was like 120. She laid 2
Yeah.
slugs as like
I
a
feel like
18-month-old.
yeah, that's about the age. I want to say it was a snow female, and I had actually gotten her from someone else. They just gave her to me. And I just remember, she had never been around a male. They only had the one snake ever. And she was small. Like I don't have anything to compare her to really, but she was probably just barely over a year old, maybe not even 18 months. And I just went in one day and she just like had eggs and she was tiny. Like she probably was around 120 grams. And but like there's so few times that's ever happened.
Yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately, she did pass away from that though.
Oh,
She couldn't
no.
pass one of the eggs. Man, it was heartbreaking to have to tell those people because they really did love the snake. They just were like moving to a state where they couldn't have it.
Mhm.
And they're like, how's Snow White doing? And I was like, oh, I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
JK, buddy.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, mine was a misidentified male. And so I was feeding it kind of like a male, like pretty chill.
Yeah.
So but then I'm like, there are 2 fucking slugs in here, 2 teeny tiny little slugs. And I'm like, and then I probed her and I was like, son of a bee.
Son of a.
She got me, woman.
I mean, I guess I'd rather it be that way than the other way.
Yeah, I don't want
her. I'd rather it be a female.
I hadn't like conditioned her the way I don't know. How do you do that? Do you keep your males not artificially small, but you don't like blast them up to 4 feet in 1 year either, right?
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't do that with any of them.
Right. But some people like
some people have.
We won't say who. It's a secret. All right. What's your feeding schedule like, in your opinion?
So I feed every week. I feed every Saturday, and babies during the height of baby season, I'll do babies, like I'll feed babies on like Sundays and Wednesdays because I feed babies twice a week when they're little, like they're still on pinkies. But for the most part, I feed my females like more of like just larger meals, and the males just get smaller meals. So once a week, my males will eat a small to medium mouse. And the females will get a like medium to large mouse, or maybe like a quail. I have some females that will only eat quail, which is really annoying, but it's fine. And or like a day old chick. Like my females are getting like bigger food, or reptilings. Like I have a few males that I'll give reptilings to, but usually it's the females that I'd rather feed reptilings to, just to like give them that extra boost. And obesity.
You feed more in the spring?
Except for the males.
Growth? Okay.
Say what?
To induce follicle growth. And then how much fat snakes have you seen in your day? On accident rescued from pet people?
How many fat snakes have I?
Maybe not on the internet.
Yeah, I was going to say that's going to be a lot.
They're
more.
all over the internet.
I have been pretty good at not letting my snakes get that way. I don't think I've ever had that problem personally, but I've purchased some snakes. I did purchase a pair of butters from Rich Zukowski, and the female had hips that were like that wide. Like she she had some hips, you know.
Yeah, the problem with
And
the hips is even if you slim them down, they stay like
it's just
hippie
saggy
looking. It's
now.
just like empty
Yeah.
flaps.
Yeah. And then I had one that I bought from SR. I can't remember if it was SR Reptiles or SR Snakes. It was not Steve Roylance, but it was SR something, and he had an ultramel lavender female that I adored, and I was like, "Will you part with her?" And he's like, "Yeah, but she's kind of fat now." And I was like, "Okay." And of course, I got her, and she was really fat. Like she was bad fat. To the point where like she was so fat that she couldn't lay eggs very well, and that was annoying. So I would say like I've probably gotten 5 or 6 different ones, but like I don't usually buy corns until I've like seen full photos of them, and if they're not healthy, I'm not gonna buy them, and that includes obesity. So as far as like the ones from Rich, I mean, I wanted to get snakes from Rich Zukowski, you know what I mean? And like, that's awesome. But the fact that that female was so fat, I didn't feel comfortable breeding her. And with the other guy, they had been keeping this like 4-foot long snake in a relatively small container, and she was not getting the exercise that she needed. Like I try to get my snakes out every week and at least like hold them, move them around, whatever. Like they at least get some exercise in, you know? But you could tell that these, so it hasn't been much of an issue in my collection. And it's easy to not let your snakes get obese. That's the thing. It's easier and cheaper for them to not be obese.
Do you need to ever push them back to every 2 weeks a little bit if they didn't breed that year or whatever?
Yeah, if there's like the big A-male odd female that I was talking about earlier, she's like right on the edge of like kind of getting hips. And so I scaled her back to just, it's not so much an every 2 weeks, but I just scale back the food size. I like to keep them on their same feeding schedule, but instead of feeding a medium mouse, I'll feed her a small mouse. And she does fine.
That's an expensive way to do it. You can just skip a week.
I know. For me, it's more of a habit thing.
Okay.
Because it's easier for me to keep track of who has eaten, who hasn't eaten. I'd much rather just thaw out a ton of different sizes of rodents and be like, oh, you're getting a small one this week because you're getting fat.
Right.
Like,
these are your rations, peasant.
These are your rations for the week. Yes.
Yeah, I don't do that. And I don't think either way is right or wrong necessarily.
Right.
I'm just like, these ones are getting ready are building follicles, or you can tell they're starving. You know, they get once every 5 days for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And then the males, if I did that to the males, they would be huge. So like they get once a week. And then if I blow past someone and they reabsorb anyway, even though they were follicle sort of juiced, I'll like cut them back to every 2 weeks. Cause like one of my Miami Tesseras, she was juiced twice. And I think she like built follicles twice and still never decided to go the distance. Whoever was like tapping her was not doing a good job, was not satisfactory.
Sometimes those males are just not, they're just not. But I've also had females that were just really picky. There's one female that I remember, she was a really nice female Okatee, and I was trying so hard to get her to breed to any Okatee stock that I had. I was like, literally any of them. I started with another nice male Okatee. I was like, cool. You know, I have this really nice pair of Okatees. She would not let him touch her. And then I was like,
she trying to like male combat him? Have you ever seen a female do that? Where they'll fight a male, like a male will fight another male?
I have not seen a female fight a male like that. No, I have seen males fight, but I have not seen a female fight a male. Although she was like whipping her tail around. Like she'd smack him in the face with her tail.
Gosh.
Yeah, she would. And I mean, it was hard. Like you could hear her just whack the side of that like enclosure. I was like, okay, this is not the male for you. So then I tried her with a reverse Okatee. Wouldn't have anything to do with him either. Scared him to death. That poor boy was just up. He like got up as far up in the corner as he could and made himself as small as he could. He was terrified. So then I just got this the biggest male that I had. I was like, I know that you cannot bully this male. This male that I had, he died of old age a while ago. Like he was one that was given to me when he was already like 5 feet long and like this big around. Big boy. I was like, good luck fighting him away. And he finally got her.
He made her
that was the only, that was the only male that she would ever breed to, no matter what I did.
That's
And
funny.
so,
I mean, I like
yeah.
that. It means like, you know, there's some mate selection, some
Yeah.
female agency. No, that's
Yeah.
all. That's all we
Yeah.
really want, you know.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people worry, like, oh, the male is chasing the female. Like, is she being assaulted? And I was like, there's a little bit of a dance. Like, they're both in on it.
Yeah, she's trying to see if he's good enough to get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And that's fine. It when the female is like whipping around and throwing him off and trying to hurt him, then that's a problem. She's like,
Yeah, have you
oh my
ever
God,
watched
like,
I never, so I lived in a state with corn snakes, but I never saw one in the wild because they're rare in West Virginia. But ever watched like black rat snakes? She will like lead him on a wild coochie chase, like the female will, and you could watch it, and he's like, "I'm following you." She's like, "No, I'm coy."
No.
Oh no. And then they'll do it, but it's all part of this like game.
Yeah, it's
where
all
they're
part
like
of the dance.
competing, right? So it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's adorable. But then some females, you throw them in the male's cage and their tail just goes whoop, and they're like, "I'm ready."
Yeah.
Anytime.
She's super ready.
Anytime. I'm like,
yeah, that's not the
hoe?
tsundere corn snake for sure. All right.
There.
Do you think corn snake market is hurt by their fecundity? Like, do they make so many babies so successfully? They're so good at being alive, double clutching. Like, that's why people like throw them together and then put them on a table for $30 and don't actually care about the morph or making sure it doesn't have kinks.
Anything.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Anything. Yes, I think it can be a problem, and it has been a problem. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, there's definitely been times when I have gone to shows and it's just flooded with corn snakes. Flooded, and nobody can sell anything. And so I think it's important to be selective about what you breed, why you're breeding it, and like how many you really want to produce. And of course, my last like few videos on everything that I plan to pair this year, not all of those pairings are going to happen. Like, I know that they're not all going to happen. I know that not every single one of those females is going to be able to breed. Probably it'll be like 2/3. So like I usually plan for about 2/3 of what I like plan to breed actually producing. And so I think that that's also kind of important to remember, is like, just do what you know you can handle, but don't overdo it. And I think because people overdo it, we do end up with this like overflow in the hobby of like so many snakes, especially normals. Like, why are we purposely breeding just normals right now? Why? Like, I feel like there's almost no point.
I think half the people who breed corn snakes have zero purpose in breeding them. They're just like, I have them.
I have them. Yeah, exactly.
It's almost worse.
And
like, I have ball pythons too, but to me, it's almost worse. It's like even weirder because they're going to make 1 trillion of them. It's only a pet market, and they're not set up to sell to a pet buyer. And so then, like, they will literally crash the market for everybody else that's a real vendor by putting them in delis with $30. No, nothing. That's why I'm like, What do you think the correct number of corn snake vendors at a reptile show should be? And this is sort of like an ongoing series, but I see people screaming on Facebook about how there are too many ball python vendors often, but also they'll throw corn snakes under the bus too, that there are too many corn snake vendors. Do you think that is true?
No.
Just the whole
I don't think there can ever be too many corn snake breeders. I mean, I think that it depends on the show. I think we have to talk about this more in like percentage wise. So I think that probably no more than 30% of what is at the show should be one species of snake. That's my opinion. Maybe like 25%. Because like once you go over like that 25 to 30%, like that's all you're going to be seeing. And I just, there's so many reptiles out there. There's so many species out there. Why is half of a show just ball pythons? Why is 2/3 of a show just one species of snakes? But I also feel like it would be not right to be like, oh, we're full up on ball python vendors, so no, you can't come if you're
That's
bringing
what
in
they
ball
do
pythons.
now.
They do, huh? I
Yeah.
mean,
If you want to vend Reptile Nation and you're a ball python vendor, you are on a different list than everything else vendors. That's how strong
okay.
of a bias it is.
I mean, too, like,
but people,
I
but
kind
it's
of, I
just
mean,
weird that people say that about corn
yeah,
snakes. I'm like, I'm the only fucking vendor most of the time at a show with corn snakes that I bred myself. You know what I mean?
right.
I'm not a flipper
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
Too many corn snakes, supposedly.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I've seen too many corn snakes at a show in over a decade,
Yeah.
personally. I think the last time that I went to a show where I was like, dang, there's way too many just one type of snake, like just corn snakes. If we're talking about corn snakes,
Mhm.
I think it was at least 10, maybe
Oh
15
no. What was
years
he
ago.
banned for? Sorry, keep talking.
It's okay.
There was a
Wait,
corn
who?
snake
Somebody
vendor
was
ban from the cold blooded expos.
dang.
Wonder who it was.
Don't know what to say about that. I feel like
Okay,
you
go
got to do
ahead.
something real bad to get banned.
I know, right?
I mean, anyway, yep.
But don't you think a
So
corn snake person should be good at breeding corn snakes? Like have enough volume, that they have enough variety, and they're actually doing selective breeding, and they have projects. Doesn't that require some
yes.
volume? Like you have to be breeding 100 or more babies a year, so you look like a corn snake breeder when you put out 40 on your table, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get 40 though. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you think about it this way, you could have one male, ultra male, that's like for Anery and Carmel and Motley, and then get some other females that are amels, snows, that kind of share some of those hets. And with 4 females and 1 male, you can easily fill up a table with a ton of variety. Because with corn snakes, especially like I love ultra male. Okay, I'm always going to be talking about ultra male because you can get the most variety with the fewest number of breedings with ultra male. And so like it would not be too hard to fill up a table with just like 4 or 5 females if that's all you were doing. But I do think that people who are breeding them should have a purpose to breed them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cute when, maybe a parent is like, oh, I want to teach our kids about how to do this. And like, this is a fun project and they have one clutch. But always have an outlet. Like that's a thing that I think that people don't understand. Is like, now you're going to have all these snakes. So now what? And like, they gotta go somewhere. At least like give them to a breeder or something. Like find someone that can take them. I've once again lost track of
we were talking about like
topic.
If a just corn snake table can be done, I guess, in some ways. And then Kratos said he was kicked out because a king snake got loose and the hotel canceled the venue for the contract, and it was found in the lobby at midnight. Bad king
That seems
snake.
like a dumb reason to kick someone out.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I feel like that's a dumb reason to kick someone out. There's
from the whole circuit too, not just like
show.
that location.
It's a reptile show. What do you expect?
They get out a lot.
Yeah, I had one get
not
out
that much.
yesterday.
Hotels, don't ban me. But once twice a show, somebody's like, please look for my Nelson's milk.
Did I tell you about the time that someone at a show that I was at found a snake in the garbage?
Was it alive or dead?
It was alive.
Was it put there on purpose because it was nice?
Mm-hmm.
Great. I've heard of a still half living gargoyle gecko thrown in the trash at Pac Noirs in Washington. Is it the same vendor?
I'm hoping it was. I'm hoping he's out of the hobby now. I don't think he is.
Oh, these ones are.
Ron Billingsley.
God, the name is so familiar. What was his business name?
I don't know.
Okay.
His table's called the Death Table. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he's still vending, but he would get whole potato sacks full of ball pythons, wild caught, pick them up at the airport the night before the show, and throw them on the table. And any that were dead in the bag, he would just throw in the garbage. And someone found one that was still alive. So
looks like Ron Billingsley is still in the hobby, so that's
unfortunate.
Interesting news.
Good old Ron. Yep.
Yeah, I would love it. So like whenever people are complaining about like species composition at shows, like too many ball pythons, I'm like, too many ball pythons is better than like the worst flipper wholesaler ever, right? Don't you want to be next to like the nice dumb ball python people than like the mite-filled flipper with the dead dying animals that smell and make the whole place look depressing? I would be next to 100 ball python vendors because they're mostly captive bred and happy adults with like care sheets and cards, and they're selling bananas. Like they're so sweet. We love them. Yeah, I love them.
Yep.
It's just like this is something that is like a problem in these show circuits. Like the customers think they want variety, but variety really means wild caught, flipped cryptosporidium nidovirus disaster stuff type vendors, right?
Does it? What?
By variety, I mean like glades, herps.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
That's variety by definition. And some of their animals are probably fine. Please don't sue me. This isn't defamation. But most of those animals are flipped. Minimum, if not wild caught, which can be fine. But all of those tables is what begets like maximum peak variety.
Yeah.
You know, there's very little space to sell corn snakes when the flipper is selling them for $30. Also, but mine are $100.
I kind of feel like flippers just shouldn't be able to do, they shouldn't exist. I don't know what to say about it. Like, I mean, it's not that them as a person shouldn't exist, it's that like just be better, you know.
Right, they could do their job more ethically, carefully.
And I mean, I have purchased snakes for resale before. Like I just bought a wholesale from a friend of mine who was like, look, all these babies are established, I just have to make room, please take them. And so I have those, and I made sure they're eating, made sure they're healthy, and I am going to resell them. To me, that's different than, oh, I just picked these up at the airport and I'm going to put them on my table in the morning tomorrow. Like,
right. And you know your friend. So hypothetically, you know they're like husbandry skill set, disease status, biosecurity, whatever.
Exactly.
These people strew in a whole sea of different stuff, slop it together in the same facility, barely quarantine it or treat it, and are just like, goodbye, little corn snake. You managed to pick up a pentastome from Africa. Congratulations, because you were just like stored in a facility with wild caught.
That's insane to me, and it drives me insane. I kind of, you know, it's really difficult for me to say that we need to have like X, Y, or Z things that we are not allowing, right, to happen. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, we're not going to allow any flippers, because then we have to like, I mean, we need to make sure that everything's defined very well. Like what how to define a flipper versus someone like me who just bought a clutch of babies
or whatever, or
you know, whatever, however you want to use it.
I just don't want bulk wholesale things.
Oh, same. So like, how do you know? I think that we need, somebody needs to like come up with like standards that make sense. I think
step one would be just a show that is all captive bred, just for a while. Like like that's step one.
Oh, absolutely.
And I like a wild caught's fine in the right dosage. Like, please go find a wild caught blue corn snake and send it to me. I'll worm it. It's fine. Like, let's do that at the right time.
Right. Yeah.
But do they have to be in environments where they're sold to pet people with minimal biosecurity awareness, or do they know that they need to worm it? Do they know where their vet is yet?
Nope. They don't know any of that stuff.
Right.
So I like the idea of having like captive bred only shows. I think that that's going to be like the best way to go, because then you're definitely not going to get importers who just, like I said, got a whole burlap sack full of ball pythons from Africa to throw on their table tomorrow. You're going to avoid that, but you're also going to avoid, I think, a lot of other unethical problems.
Some
If
of them
just
anyway.
some of them. Yeah, because like you still get people who are gonna have mites in their collection or crypto in their collection, or who the heck knows. Not even just that, but like maybe the animals just aren't healthy. Like respiratory infections spread like wildfire, you know? I didn't vend at shows for almost a decade because I didn't want anything. I didn't want to come home with anything. It stresses out the snakes that you take there. And it seemed like every time that I go to a show, something happens. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it anymore, which I am now. Like we have a local show that I, for the most part, trust. It's the Show Me Reptile show. I still don't
Fort Wayne
know
one?
everything about them. Yeah. I still don't know like everything about them. And, you know, I know some people don't really like the Show Me Reptile expos, but it's the
they
one
need to
that's
do more
advertisement.
Yeah, and less like work. Like I think Mickey's starting to do it, but they didn't used to like decide table placements in advance, right? They decide it like the morning after they set it up on Friday. You know, so there's like bad placements and people get moved and they don't even know who the vendors are. They don't have to update the website unless you pre-book 2 months in advance. So I think they're like working towards that, but also like there's no lanyards for vendors, so people just kind of walk in and out.
Yeah,
I can go steal everybody technically because you don't know who I am.
Right? Yeah, you just let me in here.
I'm a nice person.
Yeah, they did give us bracelets when we went last time that were different.
Oh, you
colors.
got bracelets?
That was good. Yeah, we got. I think we got bracelets.
Yeah, I did one in December. I never even got talked to. They didn't even. I just set up. I could have been anybody, just picking a table. I'm assuming they like looked at my banner, but that's what I'm saying. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
And somebody was like, "Well, you should have gotten a parking pass as a vendor." I'm like, "Well, we didn't," and they're like, "Huh? Well, you should have." I was like, "Where? Where is it? Tell me where it is. Is it in my emails? It's not in my emails. Where is it? I don't know."
No,
they're like, "It's fine. You can just park." And I was like, "I was going to anyway because we don't know where we're supposed to be." Yeah, and like they didn't tell us where we were gonna set up. They did just. They didn't even have a table. There was one singular table sitting by itself, like just in the middle of the floor that was empty. And they're like, "You can have that one." Okay. Yeah. It wasn't like next to anything else. There was no place to plug anything in, nothing. So, but they're working on it. I'd rather have them than like other people that have been brands here before.
Yeah, to me, like they're large. I don't know how to say this right. Mickey, don't fire me and don't ban me from your shows. I'm saying like it's largely harmless, but some of the stuff could be improved upon, and I think he recognizes that and he's working on it.
Yeah, I can see that. And I would rather have that than someone who knows what they're doing, but lets, really crappy people
Lord, girlfriend. You know I mean? Sometimes you have to get in bed with the devil, and I don't like it. I don't like it ever.
I don't like it either. I don't. No. It's the reptile world is so weird, but I don't want to say weird, but there's just unfortunately certain things you kind of have to tolerate, and we don't like it, but it, like you said, it's like you kind of gotta.
Yeah, like I don't want to really do shows. I don't like them. Yeah, I don't like that the corn snakes are all dying of thirst by the second day, and you're just giving them water, and they're like, "Please feed me, give me water," and I'm like, "Fuck, that's fucking torturing these snakes." That's how thirsty they are. Just some of those. So people who do like long shows and start to drive out on Thursday, do they water their snakes? Probably not, right? Torturing snakes. So like, but the financial reality is online sales have pooped out for me, right? So I do sell some online still, but I have to go to shows and I don't really like it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to sell feet pics.
That's what I say all the time. To sell feet pics. How about this? Sell feet pics with snakes. Extra niche,
Right. Do you think corn snakes, remember how we had the registry, the corn snake registry?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we could ever get it back? Or is there not enough like inertia left in like the breeding community?
I think that Morph Market is kind of trying to provide something like that, where, you know, you have every snake has to have an individual number, and, you know, you can say who it was sold to and all that, but it's not quite the same. Like it's not like
Not
a
to me.
registry.
Right. It's not
And
like a third unbiased party who's just
right.
interested in the keeping of the books for corn snakes.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
I don't think it'll ever like really happen. I think it would be nice, but I also think a lot of people don't want to have to register all their snakes.
Right,
You
they
know?
wouldn't have to though. Just the ones that they
Right, that's
think are
true.
like breeding potential or whatever.
Yeah. I think it could happen if someone really wanted to like put the effort in, but I don't know how successful it would really be. I don't know. I miss it because I had all my snakes on there at one point, and I was, you know, saying that, oh, this one has been sold to this person, or this one is being borrowed by this person for breeding or whatever, and that was so cool to have that information and for just everything to be very transparent. And I think that for a lot of people who want to be transparent, they really liked that. They liked to have all
Yeah,
of the
you can
things
still
that were
find people
registered.
with selling corns with numbers because that was the old.
Yeah, I mean,
They just still have that snake. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I still have the ACR numbers of a lot of the snakes that I like had on there, but I think that there's a lot of people that don't want to do that because there's some liability with it, and they don't want that.
You mean like the registry would have liability if they mess up?
They would be liable for, like, if they were like, oh yeah, this snake is definitely this morph and it's definitely het for this, and then it's not. I think that for a lot of people, it kind of sets it more in stone if that animal's on the registry versus if, oh, I just told you that it was het that, but I didn't really know. Like, I think it's more of an honesty thing is what I'm trying to say. Like, people who don't really want to be transparent really
They could
don't
lie
want
to like whitewash the morphs, but like that's true for every.
It is, yeah.
Like, because I had like registered goats, people can have dogs or horses or cows or whatever. You self-assign coat color and whatever, but for bucks, for the goats that I worked with, you had to send in DNA and have their DNA on file for parentage testing purposes. Like if someone disputed, goats break out of cages, get sort of wild, just to make sure we know who the real daddy is,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we could do that for corn snakes if we care. To me, it feels like there's a lack of
care.
Like enough people that are like, I'm in charge of corn snakes, in quotes, and have enough money and time, and then want to do that. Because there are people who have been in the hobby a long time who could have done it and been more like promoting that, and they're not doing that.
Yeah.
They don't have to, though. Maybe they don't want to, but
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people don't know. I think that's another. I guess I should finish, like, do complete sentences. A lot of people don't know who daddy is of their snakes. They don't know. They just have breeding groups. They throw them all together, and then the females lay eggs. And cool. They don't want to keep track of that stuff. And I mean, I have photos of every single snake I've ever produced, their number, the parents, all the information I have about all the parents. But a lot of big breeders don't want to keep track of that information, and they just don't keep track of that information. And even, as much as I do love Brian Farrell from Feral Captives, like, I asked him some information about some of the babies that I just got, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. I threw away all that information. I don't even have their clutch numbers anymore. And that's crazy to me. Is like, I can't imagine.
While he still owns them? Or
apparently not. He's like, I don't remember what the parents were of any of these snakes. I don't know.
I also think that's fine, right? There's like bulk crested gecko breeders and there's lineage crested gecko breeders. So
right.
I think the corn snake hobby should match what you're doing and what I'm doing, because I think that would be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when I sell snakes, there's parents and the whole clutch, and they have a number that you can go back through time and reference or whatever.
Right.
And even though they're sold, you can still come back and look at the parents. Look at who
Mhm.
produced the parents.
Mhm.
Forever. I'll never delete this ever for the rest of my
Right.
life.
Yeah. I mean, I have mine on my Facebook page instead of like on my website. But yeah, it's the same basic thing. Like I'm always gonna have that information. And I'm doing family tree stuff now. I'm doing birth certificates now. All of that kind of stuff. So that for me, I want to be able to look at this and be like, oh yeah, that snake was the parent of this clutch or whatever. Especially now that I have like the halos kind of all look the same. Like, I mean, if I had all of my snakes in a pile, I could tell you who was who. But if you threw one of my halos in with a pile of every other halo that has ever been produced, I may not be able to tell. And so it's like, oh, I want to be able to be like, oh yeah, this one was the father of this, just by glancing at a piece of paper instead of having to go all the way to Facebook and like look at through photos and who bred to who. And I do think that everybody should be keeping track like that. I know that they don't. And
I
I
know,
think that
but I
that's part
think
of the
that's why
reason.
nobody respects corn snakes. Is because
I think that, yeah,
half of the
that's
hobby
part of it.
treats them like wholesale bargain bin slop. Wholesales
Yeah.
most of them, breeds them to whatever, doesn't pay attention to lineage, barely checks stuff. And so they all are $30 snakes to them if they're lucky, right? But the real
Right.
wholesale out of the egg special price is $5 for them because they sell them in 500 lots. And that's fine. But like, there's a lot of polygenics worth working in corn snakes, and nobody freaking cares except for like 5 people currently. So like the only way to show people that it's cool is if we all act like it's cool to begin, which we're doing. But we need more people to pretend it's cool.
I mean, I think it is actually cool. Like I
think
genetics.
it's cool too, but people are like, "You're so dumb," and I'm like, "Yeah, I just sent a $50 snake to California or whatever, $85 shipping." And I'm like, "Do you want to breed?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Fuck." I sent you a picture of the parents. I don't know. It's fine, but like, there needs to be like more thoughtful intent people in the hobby, corn snake breeding hobby in particular. That's my dream. That's my dream.
I agree. And I think that one thing that's kind of saddening in that aspect is that a lot of people that I know who are that caring and who are that passionate and do keep track of all that stuff, and like have really cool projects, a lot of them end up just getting out of the hobby because
Right,
the
they
hobby
burn
is
out or
rough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially corn
the
snakes, because
hobby's
either you have to do volume or you have to subsidize it basically with your own, which is just passion or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really make a profit until I'd been doing this for about 8 or 9 years. So like, I mean, I guess I should say I didn't have a profitable year. Like I think my 8th year was maybe when I first started actually getting profits, and it hasn't even been that way every year. Like sometimes, if you really like something, you do have to put your own money into it for a little while. It's, and I think another thing is like, this doesn't have to be something that I do for a
jealous
living.
of your snake, I guess.
Say what?
Jennifer is jealous of your snake.
Oh.
I guess.
There she is.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. Like I model what I want to do with corn snakes off of what the crested gecko people did to their species, where they had a polygenic mix with some incomplete dominants and recessives, and they made value by believing in the value of their breeding, right? That's value begets value. So I believe, like we should Heather got out, Archibald. Yeah, so she got out, right? Well, instead of pretending like what Heather did for 10 years was not valuable, it is valuable. I record it. I have some of her animals. She already did lots of work. I will do more work, but we remember and we put on the internet forever that Heather produced that animal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I don't know. It's really just like depressing. I did talk to Joe randomly. Phelan? Sorry, not Pierce.
Phelan. Okay.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
like,
I know 3 Joes: the Joe Phelan, Joe Pearson, Joe Peck. And they all are Joe P. Joe P. They're all
How
Joe
did we
P.
get to this point? It's
how
like
did we get here?
Of crazy Joes. Sorry,
She's
I
getting a
freaked
little
out.
rowdy.
That was a lot of
You're
Joe
fine.
P's all at once. I
Joe
didn't
P.
even think about it.
Joe P.
Yeah, he's getting back in, but I feel like, he was a big advocate for corn snakes publicly for a long time.
Yeah.
And that was
yeah.
good, and then he ran away. So
And then he ran away.
so you almost constantly have to like stoke the species fire with content and this is why this is cool, blah blah blah, all the time.
Yeah. That's kind of like what I've been trying to model my whole YouTube off of is, look how cool these snakes are. Like here's this morph and here's what it does, here's why it happens, here's where it came from, here's how long it's been around. Like that's my my whole channel pretty much. And I'm glad
You're doing
that
a great
it is
job.
helping stoke some fires. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's literally just been me in my bedroom with my phone camera this whole time. So I'm glad that Joe Phelan's back in. I didn't know that he was back in. I knew that he kind of.
It might be a secret. I could have spoiled it.
Well, it's not a secret.
I don't know
now.
if he's like back into corn snakes necessarily, but he's just like buying stuff and like sort of interacting with the hobby a little bit. I guess
That's
in that way.
good.
I don't know if he's
I'm
gonna
glad.
like be a breeder again or something. He's just hanging out, being Joe.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah, I was on his podcast once. He's a very nice guy. Maybe twice. I can't remember.
Twice. Pretty sure.
Twice.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, I don't know. I'm not saying like he's part of the hobby cycle, but he's like, yeah, I was kind of bored and had the itch again. And I'm like, yeah.
It's hard to not have the itch.
You can't let it be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to like consume your life, but it can still be fun. Right.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people, I think that once you breed snakes or any reptiles really, it's hard to have them later on and then not breed them. It's hard to just be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna have this pet. But it's like, well, I could get 2 of them, and I could just have a few clutches,
right?
And then you're back
to
where you started.
Again.
You can't have just one. I always say corn snakes are like potato chips. You can't have just one.
No, and like they're very reasonably sized. They like, to me, they hit all the markers for like a species to allow you to breed them. They're not so big they can't be pets to any household. They're not hard to take care of. They're not expensive to take care of. They're very polymorphic and polygenic in terms of what we can extract from the wild. And we have a history of morph and selective breeding to work with. It's the perfect animal. I have zero ethical concerns about blasting corn snakes out into the universe.
Same.
They're not going to rear fang venomous anybody. Hognose snakes.
Yeah.
I know the hognose people are going to start yelling at me in the chat. I have those too. It's just like corn snakes, perfect package. Can't be beat.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, and they're also easy to breed. You have a male and female and they'll just do their thing. You don't really have to do anything to get them to do their thing. But that's part of the reason why they are so, like, we're so flooded with them in some cases, is because they're so easy to breed. People just throw them all together. And then it's like, oh, I had 5 different snakes and they just produced a whole bunch of normals and I don't know who daddy is. And
right. They're not really thinking about goals or whatever. Lee is volunteering to see. I don't know if either of us are qualified or in charge enough to make people want to do a registry either. I don't even know how you become in charge enough.
I don't know either.
Do you have to kill the boss, the final boss or whatever?
Isn't Rich Zukowski still the final boss?
I mean, he's still alive.
He still has cornsnakes.com.
That's how we do it. And if someone could defeat him in Mortal Kombat,
somebody defeat Rich Zukowski's powers in Mortal Kombat.
No, we don't.
We do. We love him. Do not hurt Rich Zukowski.
Yeah,
Rich Zukowski is amazing. Please do not. No. Yeah.
I do have hognose. Do not fight me. I have more hognose than you know.
I don't have any. I had a pair once. My female loved to faint. It was her favorite thing to do, playing dead. I look at her the wrong way and she'd play dead. Like if a sound was made on the other side of the house, she'd play dead. And that was adorable and hilarious. But then it just got to a point where I was like, I just couldn't get attached to them. I just couldn't. I don't know what it is about, like, I got attached to corn snakes, and that's it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like boas. I like red tail boas. Like, if I could have a red tail, I would.
Yeah, lots of those. Also,
I like them. This is probably the first time in my life that I've not had a red tail boa, but corn snakes are just my thing. Like, I just don't really care about hognose that much. It's not anything wrong with hognose. I think they're cute and they're funny and adorable, and they can be really beautiful. There's some really cool morphs. They're just not my thing.
Yeah, I think they're fine, but I just think corn snakes are better. Like, they're easier to take care of. They don't scream at you when you walk by. They don't have, they're not as weird about dying really young from like diets that mismatch with their, we don't really feed them what they have. I know hognose people are going to be screaming at me. I'm just telling you, if you have both, corn snakes are just easier, period. End of story.
Yeah. And I like that they do get a little bit bigger, personally, like bigger than hognose. Like, hognose just don't get that big. And to me, hognose remind me of, like, their body type is so weird to me. I don't know what it is about their body types. Like, they're like scrunched together. It's like we took a normal snake and just squoze it together.
Yeah, and some people think that's cute, and it's fine. But to me, a corn snake's a more elegant package.
I agree, definitely. Elegant is a good word. Elegant is a good word.
Right, like a boa is to a ball python. You have like a more refined, stately animal instead of like goofy. But pet people love goofy. That's the problem. They're like, it's so dumb and quirky.
Yeah, my best friend, who I have known my entire life, she doesn't care that much about snakes, but she's definitely an advocate. She's like, oh, anytime someone says something bad about a snake, I correct them. And I'm like, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And she's like, I would never own a snake unless you started breeding hognose. She's like, if you start breeding hognose, I will buy a hognose from you and I will own a hognose. And I was like, I as much as I love my best friend, I'm not going to start breeding hognose just because she wants them.
Yeah, it's very tall ask.
That's her. She definitely wants that goofy look. She loves
people love it. They eat it up.
The goofy. I like the elegance.
I mean, I don't know, maybe like because it feels like corn. So people will come up to me and be like, "Should I get a ball python for a pet or a hognose as a pet?" They stop even asking about corn snakes. Like, corn snakes aren't even like the first pet colubrid anymore, potentially. Yeah. And I'm like,
that's so strange to me.
I'm gonna fight you.
I've had people that picked garter snakes over corn snakes.
Right.
Garter snakes are smelly. They're the most smelly snakes I've ever had. I have like owned them and they stink, dude. I don't know. That's just my experience with them, but it did not seem like it didn't matter how much or how well or how often I cleaned out their enclosures. They were smelly. And so no garter snakes for me. And of course, I can't own most species of garter snakes here because they're native. So, like,
you should get like Infernalis or something.
Yeah, I've thought about it. I'm good.
The Chapala. Those are my favorite, probably.
Those are gorgeous.
And I lived where Puget Sound garters are, and I got to see the like xanthic ones that are blue and black, and they're like fucking awesome. Those are so cool. I'll buy some of those one day, just to be like buy a species everywhere I've lived after I've moved somewhere else.
That's so cool.
So weird, but like I'll tour the world through my snake room. But that would be like my.
That would be so cool. That'd be awesome.
So snake discovery is. Did you see this? Richard said they're moving to a 4,000 square foot dedicated hognose breeding facility separate from the zoo just to breed hognose snakes. Okay, brother.
Have fun.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, like, hognose also have a lot of babies. So, like, if everyone is max to the balls to the walls, like, the prices will respond, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
and most like prices did go up during COVID, but not as bad as like 1%. Like, there's other things that went up much higher as 1%.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. I'm still
I
kind of
think that
selling
corn
things for the
snakes are
same
still
price.
cheaper.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just
I mean,
been the same.
yeah, yeah. Corn snakes, I think, got even cheaper this last year. I have a whole, for those who are watching and don't know, I have a series every December where I go over all the prices that everything sold for over the year on average, like corn snake wise, all the different morphs. And the prices were like a normal, like what you would expect, and then they spiked really high during COVID. And then they went pretty much right back down last year. It wasn't as bad as it has been, but like overall, on average, all the prices have gone down for like every morph, except for microscale. I think microscale is really the only morph that like has retained its price so far.
Yeah, I don't like those either.
I do. I have my
Sorry,
little baby
Jeff.
microscale.
Did you buy it from Jeff or Don?
Jeff.
Yeah.
Did I buy it from Don?
So Jeff, when he imported those, because I live near him, right? I bought snakes from him. He's like, "Do you want to get on this lot and buy some with me?" And I thought about it for a long time because I knew they would be popular. And I'm like, Jeff, I love you, but no, right? Like, not really, because it's just not my style. I like snakes that look good. It look like snakes.
Yeah,
this is a me problem, not anybody else problem.
That's
I'm like,
fine. I don't love scalers too much, but the micro scale did like
they look better for sure.
I think that I love like the little tiny beady scales. I just think they're so cute. And mine's also possibly het palmetto, so like we've got that going for us too.
I don't like palmetto either.
I think he is het palmetto because he's very like
hypo
light
looking?
Colored. Yeah, he's very hypo looking. I'm not a huge palmetto fan, but I did purchase my first palmetto this last year, and so I'm looking very forward to. I just like I'm happy to have more of a variety now. You know, I mean, I used to most of the variety that I had did come from the like Ultramel combos because it was really easy to breed those and get a lot of variety. But then I started realizing the value of like I had this one normal and he was het for like 20 different things. Like every time I bred him to something, I found something new. And that's where she came from. And she's a charcoal mask, possibly het diffused, motley, red coat, sun-kissed, anery. She's got everything. Like it's just just a whole list of stuff because her dad was just het for all of this. He came from a pet store. My very first snake came from, or corn snake came from a pet store, and he was just a normal that happened to be het for like everything. And so now I'm getting this variety from this line. However, gray snakes are hard to sell right now. I got a lot of like charcoals and aneries left from last year. That's really the only morphs that I have left from last year.
I'm like 90% gray snakes over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I do Cinder. So like I have to test cross all of Carol's stuff for Cinder. You know.
Ah, yeah.
Peace and love, right? Peace and love. But I still have to test cross them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But they're almost all het Cinder. So you end up with a lot of Cinder byproduct. And you're like,
yeah.
Dang, another gray snake.
From like the Miami lines.
Yeah, so like yes. So I bought stuff specifically. I mean, they're still good, Carol. I love you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just want to know which ones are popping because they're het Cinder and which ones are popping because they're popping. So I have to test them first, right? And so you end up testing the ones you're sus about, and you're like, oh, okay, so this line is this way because of het Cinder's help, and this one isn't.
Yeah.
So I'm splitting them apart that way, but you make Cinder byproduct, right?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. That's part of the reason that I've just kept Cinder out of my collection in general is because like if I'm gonna have Miamis, I want Miamis.
Or just buy from somebody who test crossed for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I may actually.
I have some available.
Taking you up on that because, like, I have a Walter Smith line Miami email tessera female right now. That I don't think there's any Cinder going on in that. We have all the genetics kind of back for that, and so I really am gonna want like an actual nice Miami male to go with her eventually. but I want to avoid het Cinder at all costs because I don't want that. I just don't want it. If I'm going to get a Miami, I want a Miami that's a Miami because it's a Miami, not a Miami because it was mixed with something that makes it look a little different, you know?
Yeah, and that's fair. I sometimes I almost like Cinder better than Cinder because sometimes you can like
Same.
manipulate stuff in different ways. Like if you take a really strongly colored animal, even one that has red coat or something, and then you het Cinder on top of it, it's a different phenotype than even if it was Miami or something. It's even different. It's its own thing. It's
differenter. Yeah.
Over here.
Yeah, which is
But then, like, when I go to selectively breed Miamis, it just confuses me because I don't know how much base coat color there really is. And so I have to test cross them. And when you test cross them, a lot of them have a lot of base coat color that's being cleaned up by that. So then they have to be shunted back to the other project again, which is fine. But
it's
like,
fine.
I just make a lot of byproduct.
Know. Yep. We just want
to know
love
Mex. Do you like Mexes?
They're fine. I don't
Do
care.
You love them though? They're like the Miamis of the king snake world. Besides gray bands.
I mean, I prefer gray bands. I've had gray banded. I actually tried to breed gray banded for a few years. It just didn't really work out. So like, I don't care about Mex. I just don't. I have my one desert king snake, and he's my garbage disposal, and he's the only king snake I need.
All right. Speaking of garbage disposals, are you gonna pet sale your bug-eyed palmettos or garbage
or
disposal
feed them off?
Yeah, it's a big debate, so nobody send mean messages. I know people have different opinions about it.
Sorry, I just wanted to put her back because she was getting a little restless. You know, I don't know yet. I don't know yet what my plans are. My hope is that since I'm breeding a visual that's fine to a het male that has been bred before and kind of been like tested to see if he'll produce any of those bug eyes, and has not. I actually got him from Jim Steffla. Is that how you say his name? You know,
I don't know.
He's a corn snake guy.
I don't talk to anybody. He's I always read their names. Go ahead.
Okay, he's one of the like OG people in the hobby left. He's been doing this for a long time. He actually got a lot of J&G stock when J&G decided to quit. And so he's kind of been either way. So I got my het palmetto from him, proven breeder, has bred with other like visual palmetto females before. No bug eye has come from him. And then my female palmetto actually was produced by Travis Whistler and then passed to someone else. And then I got her after that. That doesn't answer your question. My hope is that I just don't have to deal with it.
All right. Alicia says
that's not reality.
For her, she is pet selling moderately bug-eyed, but I guess maybe hasn't had a bad one yet. Some of the bad ones I think are so embarrassing looking. Like I'm worried that their eyes going to snag on something. One of those
goldfish.
Yeah, I can understand a little bit. Yeah, those ones are tough for me.
Yeah.
Now that they're $200, palmettos, like I'm more likely to buy them. It just was like a tough sell when it's like to me a dead end project, pet only project. There's not really nothing to do with it. Really, you're making more of the same with different color speckles.
Yeah, just different colored spots. Yeah.
Yeah, but I paid like I forget maybe $600 or $700 for like what is essentially a normal a Miami. I just really like it because I'm more interested in working on really good polygenic stuff because I have like somewhere to go and something to believe in. But palmettos, I just don't know what to do with them except for make more to kids. You know.
I mean, that's kind of the reason why I ended up getting my palmetto at the end of the day. I was actually looking for Spectre, and I found a nice Spectre line female, and they also had this female palmetto, and I was like, you know, and it was relatively cheap. Like
and just threw it in there, whatever. Was it a pure Spectre without like any red factor influence?
So no red factor visible on this snake, which is good. Okay. But she was a hypo who had a Spectre parent and a like blood red charcoal something blood red charcoal motley parent, I think. and she's also possibly had sun-kissed. And so I'm actually going to put her in the project with Phoenix, who I just had out, the same project, because there's a lot of the same things going on. There's like her line is the same. It's got diffused charcoal, hypo. It's got all that same stuff in it. And some of the ghosts that come out of that project look very spectre-ish anyway. And so I'm putting her just into that project, and I'm going to try to kind of have my own sort of like spectre-ish line, I guess. We'll see. I'm just either way. I got my palmetto because I was looking for something else, and they also had a palmetto. That's long story short.
It would be nice if someone could, even if they had to rebuild it by breed back the green olive toned real specters again, because obviously Heliconia is cool too, right? But the green olive tone was like relatively unique, and you don't really see them anymore.
Yeah, I really wish that there had been more of them like bred to like wild caughts or just like outcrossed in general. And also just more of them. I just wish there was more of them overall. Like I'm like, breed it to whatever, just have more of them. Because I do miss like the original Spectre look. And I mean, I still think that Spectre ghosts were green blotch ghosts, and that's where that olive tone came from. I don't know that for sure, but that makes sense to me, especially because we see a lot of like when you put them into snows, a lot of them do kind of have that halo look to them as well. And so
do you think red coat is halo? No. Like if you took a red coat off, there would be halo underneath.
I don't think so. I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've definitely seen a lot of crossover between snakes that have red coat and snakes that have halo. But I attribute that to the coral and salmon craze. Because like almost all of the like salmon, like JMG line salmons had red factor and halo and red coat. Like if you look at all of those old like JMG line like coral and salmon ghosts, they're definitely red coat. Like you don't get something with that high a contrast in an anery without red coat. And they obviously had red factor because I mean that's what we found out what makes that pink, and we can see the halo and the green blotched in that as well. And I think that because those lines were so popular and so many people were using those lines to make their own lines and blah 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 blah, I think that still trickles down to today. That's my opinion on it. And since halo is incomplete dominant, and we know that now, it's so easy to get that to spread without even knowing it. Like it can be there and you don't see it because of the melanin.
What if though they are the same? This isn't my theory, by the way. This is Silent Hills. That like green blotch and red coated are the same, but you can't tell one when it's not amel, right? So you would never know the difference anyway.
Except for like if you bred them, you know.
Right. You would have to test cross.
You'd have to, yeah. I mean, there would be some testing, but I mean, I have multiple females that are red coat that I have bred that are like
and they didn't make
any
okay. Then they're not the same. Like all right, good. I just never met anybody who like had a known test cross.
Yeah, like my Splinter is her name. She's a red coat anery female, and I've produced like many snows with her, and they don't gain any extra yellow. Some of like because I bred her with one of the males that gets yellow like in his cheeks and sides, then those babies had extra yellow in their cheeks and sides, but she doesn't just produce halo snow babies. I've never gotten a halo snow baby out of her, and she's definitely a red coat. Like there's nothing else that can make her the color that she is. So that's my experience. Now see, here's another thing about it though, like with since it's dominant or incomplete dominant, it would make sense that you would find that correlation to me. I think a lot of incomplete dominant things are confused for other things. And it causes, like, I mean, that's the same thing that happened with coral. Like, that was coral hypo. Everybody thought it was hypo, making the color. It wasn't. It turned out to be something completely different. And so when you have a line that has the same 2 or 3 things in it for generations upon generations upon generations, and you're noticing that these 2 things are popping up together a lot, I can see why you would come up with that correlation. My experience is very different from that, though. My female red coat just doesn't make any halos, even though I've kept
There you
some
go,
of her
guys.
cells.
You heard it first. Yeah, this has been like a theory that's been floated around that maybe like that extra layering was also an extra layer of yellow at the same time on the saddle.
Yeah, which makes sense, but like I just don't, that's not my experience. And I mean, it's similar if I look back at Donovan Winterberg's like Spectre line, like all the photos, there were some like red coat aneries in that line, but like I can see some of them that have the green blotched in them, because if you have green blotch with something and there's like any amount of like frosting in those saddles or like a lack of other pigment in those saddles of any kind, you can see that yellow in there. So you can see when green blotched is there or not. And some have that green blotch color and some don't. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but I have not seen any evidence of them being the same. They do occur a lot together. But that's the same thing, in my opinion, as caramel and yellow jacket. They occur a lot together, but they're not the same thing. It's, to me, the same thing as like mask and diffuse. They occur together, but that doesn't make them the same. That's my opinion.
All right, Alicia asked a question and wants your opinion. Do you think an oakity blended with a blood red pied side would be a good idea? Is it a mess up or best of both worlds?
Let me do a quick Google search.
I think it would be bad. Because you would have a ton of extra borders built in. That's like fighting against what diffuse is doing anyway. And so if you wanted that look, then that's what you're going for. But if you wanted a big diffused looking red snake with big dramatic borders, I think you would be like fighting against yourself. Because to me, there's nothing like. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Thank you. Like, to me, like it's a sloppy diffuse that maybe doesn't have super mask or red factor and just sort of orangey yellow, and you can still see border in there. It just looks sloppy, and it's not really like directioned towards the phenotype you really want, which is a uniform red snake, right? What would be cool would be, though, like you might be adding red factor or red coat from the Oakiti stock, which would make the base color better if you had a diffuse that was not that cool to begin with.
Yeah, I think so. You're probably going to have to get mask out of there. If what you're looking for in the, you say it Oakiti, I say Okati. I don't know.
It just depends on the time of the day. Could be drunk.
It depends. Yep. If you keep mask in the diffuse line, you're not going to get the outcome that I think you want, because mask almost inherently does not allow for those thick borders to really happen. You can sometimes, like I've had a few masks here and there that like are like Okati looking enough, kind of, but the nature of mask is that it prevents those borders from getting super thick. So you want to take mask out, but I do think that if you had a diffuse, like a blood red with really thick borders, that would look cool. Like if you had that look, it would look cool. But I almost don't think
it was red or something, not like that weird orange. You know, sometimes they don't have red factor in them at all.
Yeah, that's the difference between red factor blood red and diffused. Diffused
most
is your pattern
aren't
mutation.
that cool.
Just diffused by itself is not that cool.
Like you might as well just go get a keys corn, right? Like it's the better version of that look, because like we've lost like the direction and we've just made a random diffused corn. It's like contrast is king for me in corn snakes. Like I want big sexy borders, big contrast, big huge nasty head, freak nasty head, Order, color, change, dynamic. So like that's why pied side blood reds sell better than regular blood reds, is because people like the
Yes.
contrast between the like intense white and then the red.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
Okay.
but
I saw one time a super cool like Okati blood red caramel. I can't find that photo anymore. That's what I was looking for. It looked really cool.
Was it on
I've
the
never
corn
seen
snake
anyone
forum?
else replicate it. I have no idea. Who knows, man? Who knows? I tell you what,
I go there sometimes and there's not much going on, so then I leave. Right?
Yeah, I go in there to research stuff that happened before. I mean, like 99% of the information from my book came from cornsnakes.com. And it just did. Like that's where the information is right now. The history information, if you want the history. But yeah, so I don't think that breeding Okati into diffused is really going to give you the result that you want. I think that you'd be better off just getting a really nice Okati. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
but that depends on what you want.
I don't know. There could be something like I'm always like, just do it because who cares? Like, you should try everything. But to me, we've done so much fussing around with diffuse that we've like lost. We've spent a long time not making very good blood reds for a long time. So like, I would like to encourage someone to like really try to make them good, like Alicia, who's smart and could do a good job with it.
Yeah, I mean we've gotten rid of the melanin wash in the majority of our corn snakes. Like if you look at corn snakes from 40 years ago, even corn snakes from 20 years ago, they often have like this nice dark melanin wash on them. And a lot of wild caught corns will still have that. And that's what made those original blood reds so dark, is because they had that nice dark melanin wash on them. But we've bred that out just in the hobby because we like bright colors, right? Like we like to see the really bright whites and we like to see the really like crisp pattern. We don't want this dark melanin covering these snakes. But that's what made them look so cool, in my opinion. Like that's what made those original blood reds look so cool. And also, in my opinion, it's pretty obvious from like what I've read that the original blood reds were mask, red factor, and diffused. All three. I firmly believe at this point that if you're gonna have a good blood red, it needs to be all three.
All right. Emma in chat said that this was an example of an Okati diffused pied side, maybe mask, super
it's
mask.
So tiny though.
Like, right. So we don't. So this will fill in with color as it gets older, and you'll still have these little borders. So this weird like railroad thing, which is its own sort of specific aesthetic, will not be this clear as an adult.
Yeah.
Is it cool or not cool, Sarah? 10 out of 10.
I mean, it's cool. I think all corn snakes are cool.
I know, but you have to be mean to Alicia right now.
Oh, I have to be mean? No.
Or nice. No, not cool. You can be whatever you want to be. I'm just I'm doing a vibe check.
Like it's fine.
Do it.
I don't care about blood red either. That's one of those mutations that I just don't care about. Sorry. I have them, I breed them, and the only reason that I have them and breed them is because it popped out of that line of that snakes that's for everything, you know. And that's cool because I like having the variety. Diffuse is just one of my least favorite pattern mutations. It just
oh, you're talking about Cloud Colubrids, Lee? Yeah, he has a nice collection. Do you watch I forget his name. Do you watch Cloud Colubrids on YouTube?
It sounds familiar, so it's very likely, but I also forget. I also forget. I'm getting too old to remember anything. Kidding.
Yeah, Alicia, it'll lose. So like this one is like the Okiti is fighting back as hard as it can, but borders lose in this scenario. So like this is all the borders you're ever going to get. You're never going to be able to jam a ton of border into this pairing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, because mask is just going to take that away. It's just gonna take it away. And like I get some nice Xotics out of the line that oh dude, I put her down at just the right time. She pooped. I do get some.
Yay!
I know, right? I
I
didn't
need
get
a
pooped
soundboard of children
on
cheering.
camera. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been pooped on while on camera, man. It's insane.
You should put
Not
that on
today.
the member section of the YouTube channel. A super cut of every time you've been pooped on.
Oh, jeez. No, thank you.
It's already sucks.
Yeah, one
editing
time
stuff
it was
anyway.
right down my shirt, too. I was like,
Oh, super member. Yeah.
yeah.
I keep like trying to do like I obviously do lives a lot. I do like a trillion a week. They're much easier to produce. I don't have to sit there and edit, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Editing's
For
the
sure.
worst.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I do. I edit all of my videos myself, and it's a time suck.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think we pretty much did it. Is there any other
Yeah. Sorry that
thoughts?
I'm all over the place. ADHD is our life in this house, so sorry about that.
No, thank you for coming on. I don't know. I'm like rooting for corn snakes though. Spiritually in my heart. I don't know if it'll ever get better.
I think it will. I certainly don't think it's going to get worse.
It won't?
I don't think it's going to get much worse.
Sometimes I bring 50 corn snakes to a show and sell one. And I'll bring 10 ball pythons and sell 5 at the same show. They want the ball pythons.
Shows are such a different dynamic than online though. Like, yeah, I might only sell one corn snake at a show, but like I'll go home and sell 5 of them online the next week, you know? Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I'm saying we have to make corn snakes great again.
Make corn snakes great again.
No reference to any other person who may have said a statement like that.
Just make them greater than they are now.
Yeah, well, I have I personally own the best corn snake who's ever been born, so I'm here.
Well, I feel like I own the best corn snake that's ever been born. So
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's the thing. If you stay really positive and you're really excited about having the best snake ever born, we can trick them, right?
We can trick them.
Do we cheat them and how? That's the law firm.
Do we cheat them and how? We don't have to cheat them. We just have to give them reasons to be excited, and there are so many reasons to be excited.
I know.
Some people just need
projects that were
reminding.
Left in the fucking dark ages because somebody got out or something, or they got shuffled off to a person who basically wholesales all of them, and you're like, damn, all of them? You wholesale all of them? Anyway,
there's definitely a lot of those people.
Right.
Yeah, well.
Thank you, Sarah. I think we did it.
Thanks.
Yes, this mic drop. The best snake in the world. Just saying. Okay. But thank you, chat. We had some super chats. Let's say Andrew, Jennifer, Andrew, and I'm pretty sure I put your YouTube channel in the show notes. If it didn't, what's your YouTube channel name if somebody wants to go subscribe now or in the future?
Sarah's Snake Shop. You can do youtube.com/@Sarah's Snake Shop, all one word, no apostrophes. And that's me. I do pretty much corn snake only content. Sometimes I'll talk about corn snake hybrids. And 90% of what I make is just educational on morphs. So if you're interested in learning morphs, that's what I focus on. And I also have 2 books about morphs written for the beginner in mind. It kind of goes over the history of how each morph came to be and what it does to the snake. So if you're interested in learning that stuff, and I also have sarahsnakeshop.com where I sell corn snakes and corn snake accessories.
Sweet. Perfect plug. Bye, everybody. We did it.
Bye.